The public inquiry into business dealings between former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney and Karl-Heinz Schreiber is getting mixed reviews from Canadians. In fact, a new poll suggests that many people feel the proceedings are not the best way to spend taxpayer dollars. The Nanos survey asked several questions, including how necessary is the inquiry. 23% said not necessary, 26% said very necessary. The survey also found that many Canadians feel that their tax dollars could be better spent. In fact, 45% said the inquiry was a very poor use of tax dollars, while just 7% said the proceedings were worth the money. Starting tomorrow, Brian Mulroney will get to tell his side of the story. He'll spend at least 3 days testifying on the stand at the Oliphant inquiry and is not expected to make an opening statement. Joining me now is Nik Nanos. He is the president of Nanos Research. He's a pollster and an expert on image research and crisis communications management. A perfect person to join us now as we anticipate Brian Mulroney's time on the stand tomorrow. Hi, Nik. Thanks for joining us from Ottawa. So,
great to be here.
Some details on this poll. Are Canadians following the inquiry or aware of what's going on?
Well, it's actually quite interesting. When you look at the polling numbers, the percentage of Canadians that are undecided is actually quite low. It's only about 1 out of every 20, which means that most Canadians have a formed opinion or are aware generally of what I'll say the relationship or the issue between former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney and German business person Karl-Heinz Schreiber. So everyone's got an opinion on this. That's the good news, I guess. The bad news is it's quite a mixed bag in regards to necessity, and it's a definite no in regards to what I'll say the good use of tax dollars.
Okay, so the breakdown in terms of necessity, do most Canadians think the inquiry is necessary or unnecessary?
Well, they're actually quite divided. About 39, we had a scale of 1 to 5, and about 39% thought it was necessary, and about 33% or thereabouts thought it was unnecessary. So, you know, Canadians are basically divided. You know, no strong feelings either way. But you know, the interesting thing is when we look at the province of Ontario, it was a bit of an outlier from the perspective of Ontarians were more likely to say that the inquiry at this point in time was not necessary.
Well, I wonder if they'll be paying attention tomorrow when Brian Mulroney begins to testify. How difficult a grilling will he get?
Well, that's really hard to tell. But, you know, I think when average voters, what the poll suggests is that they're probably scratching their head wondering why this is happening at this point in time. And I think the polling results, or at least the views, have a lot to do with the perception out there that there are bigger issues such as the economy and fighting the downturn and holding on to jobs than dealing with what could be considered by some as old news.
Well, interesting point you just raised, and that is the whole issue of perception. Some of the questions I've been just reading on the Canada.com website, you know, did the former Prime Minister know or suspect the source of money could have been secret? Questions about commissions paid to Schreiber when Air Canada bought Airbus planes in 1988. So I guess the question to Canadians is, you know, was he a hands-on participant or was this simply an error in judgment? And if so, will history judge him badly?
I'm not sure if Canadians are going to get into that level of detail. I think the narrative right now is that Brian Mulroney is sorry for what he's done. He's apologized. He appeared before the House of Commons Committee. And I think people are wondering, the polling shows, because it's such a mixed bag and they're wondering why we're doing this, the polling shows that I think Canadians are just a bit surprised that we're still dealing with this. And there's probably a subtext that this has basically already been dealt with. So the issue is, will anything new come of this? And if not, it's probably just going to fuel more cynicism out there in the electorate in regards to how governments spend tax dollars.
Right, and I guess the other issue is, will this be his last best chance to salvage his reputation and his legacy? Did you ask Canadians what they think of Brian Mulroney as Prime Minister?
No, we didn't get that because it's a little too premature. Maybe after things settle a little bit, we can get a better read. But you know, it's interesting. Regardless of how controversial he was as Prime Minister, he has a number of significant accomplishments he can chalk up, including free trade and his role on the environment. And I would expect he's probably just a long-term player, that he wants to just get through this and then try to work on his legacy after this episode is over, so to speak.
Okay, Nik Nanos, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Well, the numbers have dwindled significantly.